Well, it's time now for all the latest from the World Cup, and I'm joined now by Emily Boyle. And Emily, we know who will be playing France in the semi-finals.
Yes, and that's after quite an interesting game last night between Spain and Belgium. But with us here to go through that quarter-final and much more, of course, is Andreas Evagora. Hello to you. Thank you for being here. Before we go through all of those details, though, let me just remind everyone of what happened during that game between Spain and Belgium last night. Paris Saint-Germain midfielder Fabián Ruiz, who started ahead of Pedri, gave La Roja the lead in the 30th minute, capitalising on a rebound off a Thibaut Courtois save. Belgium, though, brought it back level 11 minutes later with a powerful De Ketelaere header, therefore ending Spain's remarkable run of 650 minutes without conceding at a World Cup. The second half was tough for Belgium, especially after their star keeper Thibaut Courtois broke down in tears when he suffered what seemed to be a thigh injury and was taken off the pitch in the 77th minute. Manchester United goalie Senne Lammens was handed those very big gloves to fill, and unfortunately for him, he failed to keep a hold of a Spanish shot, and Mikel Merino pounced on the rebound to make it 2-1 for Spain. Mikel Merino once again coming in clutch, as they say, scoring the winner 100 seconds after coming in on the pitch from the bench, much like he did during the game against Portugal. La Roja, therefore, will be playing France in their only second ever World Cup semi-final. The last one was in 2010, and they went on to lift the trophy. So might be a good sign for Spain. Of course, that was an interesting game yesterday, but Spain conceded for the very first time. Their defence may be under more pressure against Belgium.
I think they played the hardest opponent so far, and finally Simon conceding a goal. I guess it had to come sooner or later. But Spain just doing what Spain always do. I mean, they were patient, they kept the ball, they didn't really offer too many chances to Belgium. And yet again, Mikel Merino, it's an amazing story because, you know, when he was picked for the side, he was actually injured and they really took a punt on him, and he's worked so hard to be fit, and he's certainly fit enough to come on for the last few minutes. And again, showing a striker's touch when it was most important. It's amazing, 1 in 5 goals in this tournament has come from substitutes, which is a really high figure, and 1 in 10 has come after the 90th minute. So it shows football really is changing. It's a different sport than it was 10, 15 years ago, and we talked about 4 quarters rather than 2 halves as well, which is the most obvious sign of that. But congratulations to Spain, a semi-final for them, as you say. It's only the second, and just about deserved to go through, but it was a really tough game against Belgium yesterday.
And how do you see this Spain-France kind of blockbuster game that we've got ahead of us? How do you see that one going?
Well, I do think they're the best two sides. If there's one team that can stop France, it's Spain, because they can keep the ball so well, they can thwart opposition players. But I still think France have got just enough to beat Spain. They're two teams who know each other very well. I think they're the best two teams, and that's not one to be missed next Tuesday.
So Belgium, therefore, eliminated in the quarterfinals.
Yes, in quite heartbreaking circumstances, as you say, quite a tough game. Thibaut Courtois obviously taken off with backup keeper Senne Lammens coming on instead, only to make a quite devastating mistake which led to that second Spanish goal. Thibaut Courtois had some words of encouragement for him, though, after the game.
Obviously, I wanted to continue, but the coach wanted someone 100%. So, okay, that's his decision. I wanted to try to play maybe 5-10 more minutes to see. That's not a problem. And Senne, obviously, I gave him a big hug. Much more I cannot do at the moment. I know it's for goalkeepers, it's a shit feeling, and he's a great goalkeeper, and he will only get stronger from this. It's not a problem.
Yeah, what a big challenge for Lammens there to come on in a quarter-final. It must be tremendous pressure.
Well, goalkeepers always say it's really hard to come on as a sub, and also it's a World Cup. The pressure, but also it was a very bright day, the sun in his eyes. It was really quite hard to adapt, and he just fumbled a long range shot, and it went into the path of Merino. It's a sad day for Belgium because we talk about this golden generation of Belgian players, and we saw a couple yesterday. De Bruyne, Courtois is one. Obviously, Hazard, who left the international setup a few years ago. It's a wonderful group of players, but they haven't really delivered. Haven't really got to any finals or not won any major trophies. That's a shame because they've done some great coaching in Belgium. They've done some very innovative coaching in that small country, produced a lot of players. But it's a turning of the page. But if there's one team you're going to go out to with your head held high. It's Spain.
Yeah, and what do you think they can make of their tournament? I mean, it started off pretty slowly, but they seem to sort of be hitting their stride in these last few games.
Well, they scored a lot of goals. They scored 12 in 3 games. I mean, they hammered the likes of New Zealand. That comeback against Senegal was amazing. And, they really could have won it yesterday. It was 1-1. They had some, let's say, quarter chances that they could have put away, but not quite good enough to beat a very impressive Spain side. But, let's hope Belgium can produce another generation of fine young players.
Meanwhile, 2 more quarterfinals kicking off this evening.
Yeah, plenty more football, of course, as is per usual in these last few weeks. The 3 Lions are up against dark horses Norway in Miami. That kicks off at 11 p.m. Paris time. A few hours later, reigning champions Argentina face Switzerland and Lanati. That's at 3 a.m. Paris time, so a few sleeping choices to make if you're someone like me who wants to stay up for all of those games.
I bet. And there's a lot of attention on this England-Norway game.
Yes, and mainly because of one peculiar phenomenon, and that's Haaland mania. That being said, Erling Haaland isn't unique. In fact, there are hundreds of Haalands, just not where you'd expect, because the Norwegian cyborg is multiplying in Peru. Peruvian parents are so besotted with the Norwegian striker that they have named their newborns after him, and according to the National Identity Registry, 468 babies are called Haaland, and 91 carry his full name, Erling Haaland. But it turns out Peruvians have actually been doing this for years. 3,402 people born in the country bear the name Messi. Cristiano Ronaldo trails behind him with 1,185 Peruvian namesakes, while 1,240 kids are named after Lamine Yamal. But at the top of the list, one player stands out by miles. 33,000 people are named after Brazil's Neymar. Absolutely mad, and another demonstration of how popular Haaland has become across the globe. He's gained 17 million followers on social media in the last 2 weeks alone. France 24's own Selina Sykes explains why.
Well, he's giving Messi and Mbappe a run for their money in that race for the Golden Boot. But Erling Haaland is taking off here at the World Cup. And it's not because of all the goals he's been scoring, but because of his posts on social media. He obviously already has a lot of fans back in his native Norway and among those who watch the Premier League. But now Haaland mania has swept over the world because of all of those entertaining social media posts, whether it's be on Instagram, TikTok or Snapchat. He's likened himself to Shrek. He's shown us his shopping sprees while out buying cowboy boots and a hat in Dallas. He's even commented on an AI-generated video of himself and Vinicius Jr. reacting a scene from White Chicks. It's all very unfiltered behaviour that reminds us that even the most prolific of strikers is just an ordinary bloke that wants to have a laugh. And well, he's not the only one, because there's a beauty influencer who has gone absolutely viral after several users said that she was Haaland's doppelganger. And I can tell you this, that France 24 viewers are a bit ahead of the curve on this one, because I had a few comments a few weeks ago, even before the World Cup had kicked off, on a social media post on our account, saying that I was also a Haaland lookalike. I can maybe see it with the hair, but other than that, I don't personally think I see the resemblance. What do you guys think?
I think I would have to see Selina running at full speed to really work out if there was a resemblance there with Erling Haaland. But anyway, obviously both teams are much more than their star strikers, Harry Kane and Erling Haaland. So where do you think both of their respective strengths lie in this Norwegian and these England players?
Well, I think football often is a bit oversimplified, and people say you just need to stop Haaland. I think in this case it's true. I think England just need to stop Haaland. I think if they can stop the ball getting to Haaland, the main supply line will be Odegaard, who's the Norwegian captain. I can't see England losing if they can stop Haaland, but it's easier said than done, because he just needs half a chance. He is a great athlete. He really is quick. Sometimes people forget that, and he can get behind a defender, and he's a brilliant finisher. So I think that's probably England's main task. At the other end, look, Norway will know England really well. Quite a few of them play in the English league. Norway as a country is obsessed with English football. It has been for decades. It's actually really into its English football. So there'll be no surprises. But I think England will have just about enough. They will know the Norwegian team pretty well. And I get the impression England just getting into their stride as well. It was a really good win against Mexico. I think that was a confidence booster, because for once a lot of people were writing England off against Mexico, because of obviously Mexico's amazing record at home. But they won that game. They're scoring goals. I think they'll have just about enough.
But England's record against European sides, we were talking about it a little bit earlier before you came into the studio, England's record against European sides isn't so great, maybe.
No, since 1990, which is a World Cup, I remember, you won't, they've only won 2 games against European sides in knockout football, which is really, a very poor record, and that's against Sweden and Denmark, which is no offence to Sweden and Denmark, but maybe that Viking link will carry on today and they'll get another win against a Viking team. But they've never beaten, a France or an Italy or a Spain or a Germany. But I think they will get their 3rd win since 1990 in knockout football tonight. But it's going to be a really interesting game and definitely want to stay up for.
And we saw England up against the stats and against the environment as well when they played Mexico, obviously going into the Azteca Stadium in the kind of mecca of Mexican football, and also the whole discussion about altitude. This time the altitude is not so much of a problem, but the heat might be, and the weather conditions. How have we seen England deal with that in the past games?
Well, it's in Miami, which is very humid. It can be very sticky. The game is being played at 3 in the afternoon local time. So it's going to be very tough for both sides, and it's going to take a lot out of those 2 teams. So we might not see the blood and thunder kind of Premier League, very physical game. I think the first 30 minutes might be cat and mouse. And the conditions will have an impact today because it is unusual for both sides. So I don't think it will be as fast a game as we might normally get between these 2 quite physical sides. But it's going to be a factor, and dealing with those conditions is a big part of the job for the technical staff.
So we'll have to wait and see for that game.
Finally, let's take a look at this Switzerland-Argentina fixture.
Yes, a fixture close to my heart. A huge task for Murat Yakin and his men, especially since Lanati lost their breakout star, Joan Manzambi. At 20 years old, he's the youngest player to have been involved in 5 goals in the World Cup, with 3 goals scored and 2 assists. So one big question is, will his absence make things a little bit trickier for this Swiss side?
I think so. I mean, before the quarterfinals, your colleague James dared me to pick a surprise among the 4 quarterfinals. So I'll go for this one. I'm not quite sure why, but I think Argentina have been good, but they defensively they do leave a lot open at the back, and they've 3-2 against Cape Verde, 3-2 in that last game against Egypt. So they're not just sailing through like France and Spain are. And Switzerland are a little bit like Belgium. They're a very well-oiled unit. The players know each other very well. It's a small country, so they've come up often through the youth ranks. The players know each other very well, and it might just be the surprise today again if they can stop not just Messi but Alvarez, who's been very impressive for me. There might just be a surprise today, and there might just be 4 Europeans in the semi-finals.
Well, you were saying about how Argentina's been struggling slightly in the last 2 games that we've seen, at least. What do you think is the one aspect of their game that they'll be working on before going into this game against Switzerland?
Well, I think they have to work on their defence, because they've been caught on the break quite a few times, and they are an attacking side. Look, Argentina are a great team to watch when they're in full flow, and we saw that in the last 15 minutes against Egypt. But when they're put under pressure, they can make mistakes. They might be a little bit vulnerable in the air as well, and Switzerland have some big guys like Mbolo. So let's see tonight. Argentina are favourites, let's make no mistake, but they could be a surprise. It might go to penalties.
Well, Switzerland also hasn't reached the quarterfinals in 72 years, so obviously quite the underdogs. But it's worth mentioning that they met in Argentina in 2014, and that game went to extra time, and Argentina won it in the end, though. But if you were Murat Yakin and you had those sunglasses on that made you look like a bit of a gangster, what would you do for Switzerland to try and gain an upper hand?
Well, I think you have to smother this Argentine team, because what they're very good at is playing in small areas with 3-4 players linking up really well, short passes and creating space. So you might see Switzerland sit back. That's one option. Or another option, which I think might be worth doing, is be quite aggressive, because if their defence is a bit of a weakness, you might see Switzerland really quite go at Argentina and try and pin them back. So that's what's going to be fascinating for me. I don't know how Switzerland are going to play tonight, and we'll see in the first 5-10 minutes. Are they really going to go after Argentina, or will they sit back and try and hit them on the break? Could be either way. And
they also have that aggressive pedigree, let's say, in Granit Xhaka, who's always been quite a demonstrative and vocal player on the pitch. Do you think he'll be key to organising this Swiss side?
Well, Xhaka just goes on and on. He was written off a few years ago, and he left Arsenal to go to Germany. Now he's back in English football, and he is really their talisman and the leader. He's had another good tournament. They'll certainly need his leadership and experience today against what is a very talented Argentina side. Extremely talented, and might be Lionel Messi's last match. I think that's something he's thinking about. Well, I know some Argentina fans are talking about Messi 2030 and him going on when he's 43 years old, which, perhaps more likely than a Ronaldo because his game is not based on physique and being particularly fast or big. He's just a brilliant footballer. But I think, yes, I can't see him playing another World Cup after this one.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see for those games. I'll be tuning in, of course, and we'll be back here tomorrow to go through all of those games. But before we leave, a thought for journalist Christophe Glaise, who remains detained in Algeria. He was given a 7-year sentence for what was said to be glorifying terrorism. His lawyers are hoping that a presidential pardon may happen. He was working on a report on the country's most decorated football club, Jeunesse Sportive de Kabylie, when he was arrested over 2 years ago.
Well, thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for talking to us, and we'll be watching the matches tonight. It's been great.